Hello, fish peoples. Based upon some questions that I get, uh, I think we need to talk about sumps on aquariums from the beginning. So I would guess this is a aquarium sumps for beginners. Let's call it that. So first things first, there's two parts to a sump. There's a way to get the water out, which goes to the sump. There's a ways to get the water back from the sump. So this is typically called the overflow, and this is called the return. Okay. Now, there's two styles of this. There is the style you see here, which is not preferable. The preferable style is to drill your tank. So they actually drill holes in your tank. They put what's called a bulkhead through the tank, which has seals on it to keep it from leaking. And the water just flows into it and down to the sump. It's not a siphon. It's just, it flows in, the water rises, it flows in, and it goes down. That's the preferable way. You're going to have a lot less accidents with a drilled tank than you are with this. These are the external overflows, and there's two varieties of this. This one's the simple to understand, which is why we're looking at it. So this is what I have. I regret it, but that's what I have. So this overflow is called the U-tube style. As you see, there's a U-tube here, and there's a reservoir of water here, and there's a reservoir of water back here. You put a tube, like an airline tube, through this up to here, and you suck, and it sucks the air out and places it with water. So now you just got water in your U-tube, and nothing is happening. You see that. There's nothing is flowing in here. That's because I turned off the return, okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn on the return. So hold on. Okay, I just switched on a pump, and that pump is pumping water from the sump, which we'll look at, into the tank. Right, here comes the water, and it's going to raise the water level in the tank. And as it does so, the water is going to go through these little teeth called weirs down into this reservoir. And once they get high enough, they're going to push the water in this U-tube down to this reservoir. And then from this reservoir is going to get full, and it's going to push water over into here, which is a drain hole. You see that? So now the water is returning to the sump. And you set the height of the water in this tank by how high this box is, by how high this overflow box is. So I can move this up or down depending upon how high I want the water in this tank. And I just keep mine at about that level right there, which is about where the rim is, okay? So we got water going to the sump. Now let's look at the sump. Now this is a really old sump that I got for free because it was busted and I used it anyway. And what this style is called is a wet, dry trickle the filter. Okay, so here comes the water from the aquarium. It's coming down into a mechanical defiltration, which is a filter sock. It's going through the filter sock, coming back up, going over this wall, and it's going into this called drip plate, which has little holes in it. And what that does is lets water trickle down over these things called bioballs. All right, now what's the point of that? Well, this is an old technology. It was first used in sewage, but it got adapted to aquariums. And the point of it is that there's a lot more oxygen in air than there is in water. So by dripping this water over these bioballs and exposing them to the high oxygen content of the air, you can grow more beneficial bacteria on these bioballs, which allows you to process more ammonia that your fish are producing. So this is a very, very good biological filter, and you don't see them that much anymore, but I had this one, so I'm going to use it. So it's dripping down through there, all the way to the bottom. Then it goes down this channel into this chamber, which is called the return chamber. Okay, so there's the return pump down in there. Now, what is controlling the level of this in this chamber is how fast that return pump is pushing water back up into the aquarium. So if I speed this pump up, you'll see this water level drop because it's pushing more water up into the aquarium. And the only limit being how much flow can your overflow take. That's the trick. Okay, so we're going to go now look at a sump on a saltwater aquarium, and you'll understand more of why we want them. Okay, so the tank that we just left was a freshwater tank. And I would say sumps are not that common on freshwater, although they can be. But on saltwater, they are very common. And I'll show you why in a second. This is the other type of external overflow you can have, the CPR, continuous to siphon overflow. And this one requires you have a suction device, okay? So instead of the U-tube being in two reservoirs full of water, that this one is always empty. As you turn on some kind of suction device, in this case it's a power head with a venturi hole, so as the water is exiting, it's pulling, right? So it's going to pull the air out of this thing and allow the water to go through it, and it goes through the series of complicated channels all the way down to the back and then down to the tank. So I just wanted to show you this. This is not why we're here. Why we're here is the sump. Okay, so this is a very common type of the sump you'd find in a saltwater aquarium. This light's kind of really too bright. Let's move that thing around a little bit. Okay, so what we have is the water coming from the tank, going down, going through some mechanical filtration, and then in this chamber here, where you have the protein, the skimmer. And protein skimmers in saltwater aquariums are very important. They keep your water sparkling clean. I wouldn't have a saltwater tank without one. I don't care what other people say. That's the way I am. Okay, so we're going through here. The water, it's going to go through this little sponge down into this chamber, which is the return pump, the chamber. And it's dirty. I know that. Now, first of the thing you say, why do you have these two things here? Why are they separated? That's because you want the water to only lower. You see how it should be filled now with fresh water? You only want it to lower in the chamber, because protein skimmers are very sensitive to water levels. So you got to keep this water level the same all the time and allow this one to lower. That's why this separator is here. The sponge here is called a bubble trap. So oftentimes the protein skimmers, they shoot out bubbles. Those bubbles can come over, get in your return pump, go back up in your aquarium. They're not harmful, they're just unattractive, okay? So this is a classic sump you'd find in a saltwater aquarium. There's many more that are very complicated compared to this. This is as simple as it gets. Water comes in, goes through mechanical filtration, and the chamber where the water level is always equal, you have a protein skimmer, and it goes down to a chamber, which is the return to the chamber where the water lowers as it's being pumped back up into the aquarium. Okay, I hope that helps somebody. Let me know if you have any questions later, dudes.